I'd like to share with you now a story that demonstrates the power of the impact that you can have, or we can all have as leaders, good and bad. And it really brings to life this whole thing about unintended impact and intended impact. So imagine now, I don't know how many of you have children, but imagine that you're out in the local park with your daughter, say, who, let's say her name's Isla and she's 6. Now Isla has just learnt to ride a bike without stabilisers. So for the first time she's in the park on a wide pathway, cycling in front of you, and she's doing really well. She's a bit wobbly, she's kind of shaking around a little bit, but generally she's doing really well. Now as proud parents, or a proud parent, what you want to do is to make sure that Isla doesn't come to any harm. You're really protective, and yes, you're doing the right thing. You're doing things for the right reasons. So you're so proud, your heart's nearly bursting with pride as you see young Isla riding along on a bike, shaking a little bit. And then your attention's drawn to something ahead of her in the road. So as you look, you can see a rock in the road. It's not a big rock, it's probably just a relatively small rock, but a rock nevertheless. So all of a sudden you go into crisis mode and you shout out, "Isla, watch out for the rock in the road." And poor Isla, at that point, she hasn't even seen the rock in the road because it's only a small rock and the path's really wide. But from that moment onwards, all she can focus on as she rides along is that rock in the road that you've drawn her attention to. And guess what? 90% of the time she will hit that rock and fall off a bike and hurt herself. And the sad thing about all of that is that's totally down to you as a parent. So coming from the place of wanting to do the right thing at the right time, you've inadvertently created the reality of the thing that you really didn't want to happen. You focused on the undesired outcomes. Now, if you'd said nothing, Isla would have ridden straight past that rock, and there's a very small likelihood she would have hit that and fallen off a bike. But because you've said it, and that's where our focus lies, the outcome has been predetermined, if you like. So think about that story and think about your leadership position and how that can relate to leadership. This is how important it is to always focus on the things that you want to happen. Quite often as leaders, particularly in this current operating environment we're in terms of economically and so on and so forth, we tend to focus on the things that we don't want to happen. And by doing that, we've really increased the likelihood of the unwanted stuff happening. I think that's really interesting. When I heard this story a few years ago, it was really an eye-opener for me. So impact as a leader, what you want to happen isn't always the thing that happens. So there needs to be more thought in it than that. Again, we've got lots of stories like this to tell, so get in touch if you want to find out more.